Hi, so for this tutorial, we will be learning how to bind different kinds of bags, from handbag, belt bag, side bag, sling bag, and lastly, backpacks. So let's first learn how to bind handbags. Once you're done with modeling your handbag, what you want to do next is to create a hand that looks like it is holding your handbag. So the easiest way to do that is to just drag your creator base set inside the scene. And let me just hide this first. And then what you're going to do is to manually rotate or transform each of these joints. And this. So once you're done, for example, this you're satisfied with this, what you're gonna do next is to duplicate this base mask. So duplicate, and then once you duplicate it, you delete history, of course, and then the non-deformer history, everything, so that it will be clear. And then go to the channel box layer editor. You see there is a blue box besides the transforms. This means that this mask is locked to this position. So what you want to do is to unlock it. To do that, you're just going to highlight this by dragging your left click to all these transforms from translate to scales, and then right click and then click unlock selected, maybe 2 times. And then once you do that, you can now move this mask and highlight all the faces that you don't need. Example here, and delete those. Then you can also center the pivot if you want, and then transform this or move this back to the original place so that it will be easier for us to copy the skin weights of the base mask. Now for the hips of this, you're just going to change it back to the bind pose like that. Now you have this mesh. What you're gonna do with this mesh is to just combine this with the model of your handbag so that you have something like this. Then the joints that you only need to select when binding this is these joints. The hips, every kind of bags need to include the hips joints, okay? Even if there is no influence from that, you need to include this always. And then next is, since your hand mesh is up to this, so it means that your lower arm need to be included on the binding influences. And of course, most importantly is the hand. This is for your bag. So to easily bind or set the skin weights of your bag to maximum at the hand joint, what you can do is to select all the vertices of your bag. So maybe highlight and then deselect this. Now you're selected this, go to paint skin weights again, and then click hand, and then you're just gonna set your opacity to 1, value to 1, and then just flood, so that all of these vertices will have the maximum value of influences of the hand joint. Moving on to belt bags, the most common problem that you may encounter when creating belt bags are the influences of the scale joints of the character or Zepeto character. Especially now, we have different kinds of body shapes. Then those changes in scale joints might deform your belt bag. For example, here, when this set of joints scaled up, your belt bag will deform like this. And this deformation doesn't happen in real life. So we don't want that. But if you want to have like this, then you can do that. But for me, I want it to just scale up normally, like in real life. So what I did is I just set the maximum influences to the or from the spine scale, so that, let me just show you here in Unity, when you changes the deformations, it will just follow the scale of this whole region, but will not deform based on the chest or chest upper scales and also the pelvis scales, to avoid the bend deformations. Okay, and also the most important thing you need to remember when making any kinds of bags is to give a enough space or gap between the body mask and your bag. Make sure that this strands or any part of your bag will not go inside this body mask. So everything should be outside. For me, I think this is the safest, but you can still set it as close as this, but make sure there are enough space, because Zepeto will surely reject it if you model it too close to the body. Next type of bag we will be discussing is the side bag. And for this kind of bag, the common problems you may encounter are the deformation of your bag strap. It might go in with the scale or the body shape changes on the Zepeto character, like this one. It will produce jagged line of strap. So to avoid that, what you can do is to limit the scale influence to just the upper half of your bag and the lower half of your bag, or maybe one also here, a little here on the middle part. So what I did is I only bind my bag on this set of, or on this hierarchy of joints. So from hips, of course, hip scale, and then going through the shoulder, so that when you go here and input your side bag, it will just be like this. And when you, for example, move the chest upper, it will still follow. Okay, oops, like that. But on a rest state, it will not be jagged. Also in different deforms. See, it will just follow. So all you need to do is to minimize the set of scales or joints that influence your bag. In this case, we only want to have a upper part and a lower part that will control the influence of your side bag. Next type of bag that we will be discussing is the sling bag. This is where the bag strap is going across the body mask. And similar to previous types of bags, major concerns that you want to take note is that the body mask and the bag have a gap between them, or enough space, so that your bag will not go inside, or any of the parts of your bag will not poke inside the body mask, to avoid rejection. And then next thing is you want to have a smoother movements of the bag, especially when the Zepeto character changes its body shape. So for this type of bag, the joints I selected are this hierarchy of joints, from hips, spine, chest upper, neck for this part, then of course the shoulder scale, and some on the upper arm scale, and chest scale, spine scale. But most of the maximum values or of influences, I set it here in the chest upper scale, because I think that when this part scale up, this should also scale up. And since I want to avoid the jagged lines of or the sudden cut here, I also made this part to be influenced by the chest upper. But if you want to set this part of your bag to be placed here only and produce like a bend on your bag strap, then you can also do that. Maybe you can do what we did on the side bag, wherein we divide the influences into 2 to 3 divisions. Like you have the bottom part, the middle part, and also the upper part. So you can set that also here in the sling bag. So here, maybe you can choose the hip scale so that this will be in place even if the chest will scale up, or maybe on the pelvis scale. To show here, this is the default body type, and when we change it to maybe larger one, what it did is it scaled up according to the scale of the chest upper, like this. So if you have set your bag to have an influence also on the pelvis, then you will expect that your bag will be bended like that. If you want that, you can set that, but for me, I want it to be like this. Last type of bag that we will be discussing is the backpack. And similar to previous types, the major concerns are: first, there should be enough space between the body mask and the bag, especially here on the bag straps. You do not want it to go through inside the sides of the base mask, since that can be the main reason why your backpack might be rejected by Zepeto. And the next concern is the movements or deformations of your body mask along with the changes of the scales and joints of the Zepeto character. Like on this specific body type, the lower region of your bag cinch in. So we don't want that. We want as much as possible to make our bag stay into its original size even if the body shape changes. So what I did is I set it only on the chest upper scale. So here are all the joints that I selected to have an influence on my backpack. But most of the maximum value of influence, I set it on chest upper scale so that I will avoid the deformations when this specific joints will change its value. Example here, it will not affect my bag. I will show you here on Unity. So this is the fixed bag. It will not cinch in like the previous one. Even if you change different deformations, it will just follow the main size of your Zepeto. Like if it's small, it also be smaller and larger depending on the actual size of your Zepeto. But it will not be deformed like the previous one. So the key here is to set only the specific joints that will influence your bag. So to summarize, all bag types have similar concerns. First is the gap between the body mask and your bag. And next is the movements or deformations of your bag along with the scales and joints of the Zepeto character. As much as possible, you want to mimic the real life deformations of these kinds of bags. That's all. Thank you.